now it's nighttime. Further proof that I am indeed playing on a server. Time passes, even when I'm away. And I think actually that it was autumn. It's going to be winter again pretty soon. That's pretty funny. The seasons. Yeah, all right, so it's nighttime. I'm just going to keep working on this roof. The roof is floating in some places. Like here, it's kind of floating. I wonder if I should have lowered this by 1 block. I wonder if there's any way to make that look good. Because this siding would come along here, and then it would have to meet, like this would start abruptly. I don't think I want that. Although, no, I guess actually all it would be is that this part of the roof wouldn't hang over as much. Yeah, I think I should have done that. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to do that. Yeah, you know, this is great. I know you love watching me take a roof apart and build it again. So, you know, I'm doing this one for you. What? There we go. I got a stack of dirt. I'm gonna dirt pillar my way up. Oh, look at that. And take this thing apart. I think, right? I don't want to take the whole thing apart before I've tested this hypothesis here. So I'm going to just take a little bit of it apart and then use my imagination to determine if this is a reasonable idea. And yeah, you know, it's pretty obvious that this is a reasonable idea. It's pretty obvious to me. And yeah, that's the way it's got to be. That's the way it's got to be, because I don't want to raise this up 1 more. That would just be so tall. But I do want this overhangy bit. Obviously, this has got to be. That's awkward. That's awkward. But oh, I guess I'm gonna have a stair block there, so then it's gonna be a little bit less awkward, right? Like I'm gonna have, you know, that's cool. Well, we can fix that. I won't do that right now, but we can fix that. Okay. So yeah, some mistakes, you know, you just have to let be, but then other times, obviously, gotta fix them, because not everything is perfect. Is this dark up here? Yeah, it's dark up here, isn't it? Oh, these zombies! I've totally, you know, I've got it now. I need a wall around my wall. But actually, that's pretty cool, right? that's a storied wall, a wall that needs a wall around it. That's the story of growth and expansion, right? Like in Draxermed, if you watched episode 5, Gaiden, I just pulled that reference right out of my hat. I just happened to remember. I mean, there's only 9 episodes. It's not that hard to remember. It was episode 5 in which I explored Draxermed. That there's like scraps of the inner wall that tells a story, right? This style of building, right, as well, you know, where you can build a giant cathedral, and it's cool if you build a giant cathedral. I mean, seriously, you should build a giant cathedral if you can. But if your giant cathedral is without story, then it's not alive. You know, it wasn't built for a reason, you know, that sort of thing. And I think that is less good. That's less good. I'm gonna lose some stairs. I'm like I want to say notoriously inefficient block placer. Come on, you guys, get out of here. There's no such thing as a free lunch. Come on, this is daytime. You got to be dead. You got to be dead. It's daytime. Anybody else down here? Okay, I'm gonna jump down there. Oh yeah. Okay. All right. Wow. Look at this. Look at me. There's an Enderman over there. Don't look at me. Don't look at me. And then I'm going to break these. Thank goodness for my godly reach. Thank godness. There we go. Yeah. I'm very tempted to like not talk about the Jupiter thing. Just because it would be funny to mention it at the end of one episode and then just totally not talk about it. I was thinking about that before. I was like, oh, I should just not. I should skip it. I should talk about something else for a while and then come back to it. But it's kind of what's on my mind. But maybe I'll digress a little further beforehand. Is this gonna be okay? Someone who's better at building than me, please help. Send help. I think it's going to be okay. One of the other conditions that I have, this is like a weaker condition. This is not, I'm not like as, it's not a must condition for a game that I want to run, is that combat should be, when you're playing a game, like when you're playing a war game, you, was I doing half stairs here? Yeah, I was doing half stairs here. I don't know if I'm actually going to do half stairs. I should just do a dirt block because I don't know if I'm actually going to keep that. When you're playing a war game and you lose, you don't scrap your army, right? You don't like throw all of the painted miniatures into a crucible and destroy them. I mean, I don't. I don't know anyone who does, but obviously there might be somebody out there. Hardcore mode. I used to play a little bit of Minecraft in hardcore mode, and that's kind of like, you're taking all of your wonderful stuff that you've crafted and you're just tossing it if you die. I actually used to play hardcore mode, like voluntary hardcore mode, where I'd be on a server, and if I died, I would, because I just don't die very often, so it's kind of fun that I can do this. If I died, I would build a little grave for myself, and then like leave my base and go and start a new base, because I love starting new bases. So it's no cost to me to do that. This is not right. Is it? Oh yeah, no, this is right. Oh, and in fact, didn't I have a thing I was doing where the last two? It's actually hard to do on purpose. I think I failed to do that on purpose here. I'm going to just leave it. I'm going to leave it like this. But the point is that like dying is fun. It can be cool, right? Dying. A friend of the family once long ago said, and this is stuck with me. I need more wood. I need wood. Oh, I'm not invincible. Sometimes I forget that I am not wearing my best armor. I am but a man, a simple man. A friend of the family, like when I was quite young, I don't even remember the context of this comment, but he said, all stories end with the death of the hero. And I liked that. I liked the sound of that, as the way that it rolls off the tongue. All stories, all real stories end with the death of the hero, the death of the protagonist. And it wasn't like it stuck with me, so I've thought about it a lot over time. And very recently, when reading Greek mythology to the kid, it struck me that like, oh, this is really true of Greek mythology. Like the story of Heracles is not over until he is in the grave. Jason and the Argonauts. Like you always get a little denouement. I really like Atalanta. Atalanta is a fast runner. She's the fastest, and she runs real fast. And a lot of men want to marry her because she's beautiful. I can't remember who she's the daughter of, but she must be related to a god. She's maybe a demi-goddess or a quasi-goddess or something. She's real fast, and yeah, a lot of men want to marry her because she's real beautiful, and but she's not interested in that. And so she says, you can, like, if you can beat me in a foot race, then I'll marry you. But if you lose the foot race, right? This is an open invitation. Any suitors who want can come and try to beat her in a foot race. But if they lose, she's going to turn around and kill them with her bow. She's a huntress. And so this happens several times. Men are like, well, that last man who tried to marry you, he wasn't a real man. I'm gonna be the one. And they race, and she kills them. I'm gonna leave this here. Actually, I was thinking about that I haven't been leaving these big beautiful stumps. So like actually there should be one here, I believe. So I'm gonna like artificially create one there. There's a sense of place. Yeah, Atalanta. But then somebody comes and challenges her and visits like some witches or some wise ladies or some oracles or whatever. Greeks are always visiting oracles in the myths, and asks like, "What can I do?" And what is he? He's given like three golden balls that they say just toss these golden balls ahead of you, like or off the track whenever you. Are losing, just toss one of these off the track, and Atalanta will be like compelled to go and collect it. And then also she'll have these golden balls she'll be carrying in her arms, and then she won't be able to run as fast. And he does this every step of the way. He whenever he falls behind, which is Atalanta's fast, she's the fastest. He put this in here maybe. Oops. Ooh, no. Ugh, no, I hate that mod. That's like, I wish I hadn't included that mod. The one that lets you put things on the ground. It's like useless and it just gets in the way. Like here, look, I can put a bucket on the ground. But like this is often, I can't anymore apparently, okay. Atalanta. I get distracted from my distractions even, that's how bad it is. Or how good it is. Yeah, so then, he wins the race, and she's like, wonderful, and she's fallen in love with him along the way because he's real great, and I don't know, she falls in love with him. And then they get married, and they live happily ever after is how the story would end in any other culture, right? Well, not any other culture, but happily ever after, they like grow up. They move to a city and they live together and they have a good time for a little while, but they fail to praise Zeus. They fail to offer the correct praises to Zeus, and so Zeus turns them both into leopards, and then they live as or cheetahs or something. They live as fast cats for the rest of their days running around, and like that's so funny. I don't know. I think that's really interesting. So anyway, the story doesn't end until the death of the hero, and it's a problem today that like no one respects this idea, and stories just go on and on, right? Like think about the Marvel movies or the Marvel comic books, like they never end, and death is not permanent in those settings, right? So even if the main characters, like Superman, died famously in The Death of Superman, and then he just came right back. Like, oops, that's dumb. It would have been much more interesting if I don't know. We have this problem where I'm not going to get too far into that because that's not the point. So like death is important. It's important that characters die. That's how the story ends, is when the character dies. But it sucks to be downed to have your important character, like if Lag died randomly in an encounter, that would suck. I would hate that. I'd be like, oh, that's not how this character was meant to end, but okay, I mean, the story's not over till the character is dead, right? So there's got to be some kind of moment of self-sacrifice or apotheosis where the human goes up and becomes a god or something, and that's coming, right? It's always in the cards, but yeah, to have it happen randomly is lame. But then to exclude the possibility of it happening randomly is also lame, right? Like, because then there's no danger. There's no sense of like, oh, I could die. I could lose this character that I've worked so hard on in any combat, if I'm not careful. And that's a tension that we feel in the game of Dungeons and Dragons, is that like the dungeon master doesn't want your characters to die, but does want you to feel challenged during combat in these crunchy systems, right? Combat should still be fun. And so one of the conditions that this one goes back quite a number of years, but one of the conditions is some kind of conceit where the characters where like combats are not necessarily lethal, right? And that's quite a tricky one. I think this roof is done. I think the roof at least is done. That's a tricky one, right? So like, for example, Pokemon. I played in a D20 Pokemon game one time, long ago. And that was awesome. Not only was it an awesome game, but it had this property. This was even before I had formulated the idea of like wanting this, right? But it had this property where you would have like what felt like life or death struggles, right? Like your character wants to be the very best, right? Like when Satoshi is out there doing one of the tournaments, he cries. He cries when he loses, right? It's important to him that he win, that he be able to be the very best, the best there ever was, like no one ever was. And what's going on here? Oh yeah, so I don't know if I want this upside down stairs or not. I'm gonna put the upside down stairs here. What happened here? Is there a problem? This should be an upside down stair. And then, wait, that's a stair. That's a block. That's a block. What's this? Oh, I see. Right? Yeah. I'm just gonna place these here and then go take a look and see if I absolutely adore that, then I'll probably do it. But otherwise, like I intend to use that space up there, and it's kind of awkward if that space has all these stair blocks in it. It becomes harder to use. So yeah, Pokemon has that property. There's like a game, and Pokemon from Pokemon you can sort of extrapolate. Whoa, something is wrong. Something is clearly wrong. Look at my reach. Oh man, I love having this reach. Okay, there we go. Yeah, this is not necessary. I don't think this makes it look better. Maybe at the very top it does. I could like do a partial one. I don't think these are necessary either. Ah, actually that doesn't look great. Okay, I will worry about that in the future. I'm clearly worrying about it right now. This obviously needs to be wood, can't be stone. Yeah, you can extrapolate from that the idea that like one solution to this requirement is that the game be about a game, right? So like if you are playing characters who are playing a game, then the stakes are high or can be high for the characters, right? Like in Pokemon, but they're not so high that losing any fight means you lose your character forever, right? Which is kind of the state of Dungeons and Dragons, like just out of the box. If you just go delving into the dungeon, it's about risk, and it's about delving dungeons and stuff, and like out of the box, right? You just lose your character. It's kind of lame. And yeah, so a game about a game. The other one that I thought of a long time ago, a long time. All my anecdotes seem to start that way because I'm just old. A long time ago, a friend and I. Oh yeah, this needs to come down all the way. I love this roof. This is a good roof. This is like, I think this is among my. Well, I think I just love everything. I think I'm just easily delighted. But yeah, this is a good roof. A friend and I wanted to make like an altered carbon. Actually, it was his idea. He wanted to make an altered carbon RPG. Altered Carbon is a novel, science fiction novel in which characters in the world, there's the technology has been discovered that allows you to remove your mind, and like copy it and put it into another body, which is really wild if you think about it. I'm pretty sure that I remember that they never explicitly discussed this in the book, but that's suicide, and right? It's suicide with more steps, and they use it in the book just to travel, just to casually travel, right? So like you get into a suicide machine, and it removes your consciousness and puts it into another being, and you aren't like, that's it. You close your eyes and you're gone, right? And then if like if you return to that body, you open your eyes and there you are. And they've uploaded all the memories of the interim, so that's okay. Then you're not dead, right? So that's fine. But often they use this for like interstellar travel and stuff, and then you're not going back, so you're just dead. That's weird. They don't talk about it in the book, and I think that the fact that they don't talk about it in the book is actually really telling, because I think often a piece of media is quote unquote about the things that it doesn't mention explicitly, right? Like Pokemon never talks about the mistreatment of animals, or these sorts of, well, they do a little bit, they do, to their credit. But I think that is more evidence of the fact that like they never talk about the sort of, well, I don't want to, this is a digression for another time, I think. I don't want to upset the Pokemon fans. But I think that because they don't talk about that stuff, that's what it's about. Because for us, that's what we are encouraged to kind of think about when we watch something. I don't know. That's my like theory of aboutness. What is something about? It's about the stuff that's not in the text. But whatever. So yeah, in Altered Carbon, you don't die. When your body dies, you can come back, right? Like you can have a backup. Some rich people all have backups, so that if they die, they just come back, and like that's quite cool for a D&D game, because it means that you have that property that I so love, where combat is expensive in that case, right? Like in that case, combat, you don't want to lose combat and like lose a sleeve. These bodies are called sleeves. You don't want to lose your sleeve because it's expensive. Damn it, that was the sleeve that had the cool ninja tricks built into it. Like now I gotta go and buy another one. Who's to say I'm gonna be able to afford that? I'm just a runner, or whatever the terms are in that setting. And that was cool, but it also got me thinking. I've always wanted to, like RPGs are based on tabletop wargaming, and like that's their history. That they come from tabletop wargaming. They evolved out of tabletop wargaming. But I've always preferred CCGs and TCGs and LCGs and whatever to tabletop wargaming. That's just my preference. As games, I just think those are better games, more interesting, more fun, more varied. And I've always wondered, like, what if instead in an alternate timeline, it hadn't been war games? Like, what if in an alternate timeline it had been TCGs instead of war games? We'd have this reality where tabletop role-playing games would all be based on, you'd have your character would be a deck, right? There are very few examples of this. Like there's Phoenix Dawn Initiative is like an RPG where your character is a deck of cards. I think you might also have a character sheet, which is fine, right? Yeah. And so the Altered Carbon thing got me thinking about that too, because then it's like your character is this deck, and it's highly swappable. Like your character is not he or she, your character is not their legs, right? Your character is not their brain. Your character is not their arms or weapons, right? It's all of those things and none of those things. Like, so then in that case, what is your character, right? And it turns out, if you think about it, your character is your agenda. You play as an agenda in Altered Carbon or whatever, basically in any game. But it takes a bit. Yeah. You play as your agenda, and your character is dead only when their agenda is dead, right? And that's something that if you teach players to think that way, and you structure your game world in a way in which that makes sense, and you structure the nature of the story in a way in which that makes sense, then it solves the problem of like character death and coming in as a new character. Because you don't come in as a new character, you come in as another sort of extension of the agenda that you were playing, right? So like Lag, for example, we were talking about recently, like what if Lag died? Well, Lag is one of many characters, many NPCs and PCs who have kind of interacted with this agenda of stopping this bad guy that we're trying to stop from ending the world. And so that's actually what I'm playing, right? Like the character is kind of an incidental, is a limb, you know, is an extension of the agenda. And so a game in which you have that property can, you know, solve this problem a little bit. A game in which you play as an agenda can kind of solve the problem a little bit. So, you know, there's all kinds of different solutions to this problem. Got some dark spots up here. Get some stone torches. I'm never going to be free of these stone torches. Like I built I built 20 of them a long time ago, and now they're just always going to be plaguing me because I'm just going to keep placing them and breaking them for all eternity. Yeah. So you know, playing as an agenda is another way of solving the problem of like being able to make, because then, you know, your combats can be real hard and there can be players dying, but you don't actually lose, you know, you don't lose the characters necessarily in the same way, you know, as final a way. I'm gonna do this thing to these bay window, little tall windows. I'm just gonna do this little thingy right there. You know, I like that. I think that's cool. I mentioned before, maybe several episodes ago, that we were building, me and my kid were building a house based on a YouTube video by this YouTuber named Raito, I think. And we finished, and it's good. And it's got these windows, and I was like, oh, that's cool. These windows are cool. It's got the little touch up there, just to, you know, reduces the tofu kong. I don't know if I want to do it over the door, but maybe I do. Or maybe I'll just put a little window there. That could be kind of cool. Yeah. Properties. Combat. Solutions. Oh yeah, so, you know, the game is a sport. You play as your agenda. Yeah. Another one was, and this is kind of, I guess this is related to you play as an agenda, but we were playing Warhammer. How did this get here? Have I been visited by another player? Is there somebody else online? No, I just probably misclicked with my reach. Sometimes it's mysterious. No, I don't like this. Ooh, that's too small. We were playing Warhammer 40k, and we were just playing a normal game. Like somebody was DMing Warhammer 40k, and that was cool. Good job, you know, good on them for DMing that. It was fun. And that's way too big. It just played as characters who were like related to each other, and something I haven't really thought about. Kind of a ragtag, you know, rogue trader style group. Like we weren't rogue trader style. We were working for the Imperium of Man, but we were on a quest, you know, and we were doing our thing, and then yeah. Oh, and it got me thinking, right? It'd be cool to play a 40k game where you play as a chapter, like where you play all the players are part of one chapter. You like make up a chapter for the players, chapter of Space Marines, and you're stranded. I read one of the novels. I read one of the. This is part of this was because I read one of the novels, like the Horus Heresy novels. It was really good. It was the one that was recommended as being really good, and it was really good. This roof is really good. It needs like a trim, and it needs maybe some stuff in here, but I'll get to that later. It was really good. Yeah, like it was not bad. And I kind of feel like extending this now. This thing. That's dangerous. It got me thinking. In that it discusses like the Space Marines like long ago, the Space Marines of yore, And how like they behaved very differently. They had like brotherhoods within their like big floating world ships. Oh, this extends way out. Is that further than I wanted it to extend? Why does it extend so far out? I had a reason for doing that. I can't remember it though. That I think that's really cool. Like if you think about I liken 40K to Peter Pan, the Lost Boys. That's sort of what it is. It's like a post feminine apocalypse where there's no moms. Like none of the Space Marines have moms, and they just fight pirates in space. Like they're just Lost Boys. That's an interpretation. I don't think that that's an original me. I think that somebody else did that. I think it might have been Merritt K. Credit where credit is due. I'm gonna take this out. Am I? Didn't I want to like extend this out something? I feel like I did this for a reason, and now I can't remember the reason. Oh, it's so frustrating. Yeah, so it had that kind of feeling, and so I thought it'd be cool to play a chapter of Space Marines in one of the big space, temple things, cathedrals, flying around, and they get separated from the Emperor's light. The Emperor is like a beacon, a navigational beacon, and navigators can like see the Emperor's light from far away, and I think the plan was to bring this wall out so that there's more of an overhang here. But I feel like I'm going to stop. The other thing I feel like I'm going to do is, this is such a pain, this thing right here. I wonder if I could, yeah. I wonder if I could do this. So the chapter gets separated from the Emperor's light, and so is no longer able to navigate. Oh, this is what it's supposed to be actually. If you look at this side, this is what was supposed to happen. Yeah. Good, solved. And so they can't navigate. They have to pull out the old computers, right? And like there was a Butlerian jihad at some point in this setting as well. And so there's no, you don't have great computers. You have like old bad computers. And so they can only calculate jumps between stars. This is the plan for a game that I fantasized about running. They can only make jumps between stars. So they have to like jump to a star system and then like drive around the star system real slow, and then because you can't jump through a star system, that's the whole point. Drive around to the other side and then jump to another star system, and in this way kind of leapfrog their way slowly back to the Emperor's love. Oh, ow, oh, no, sword, no, monsters, no, oh god, oh. I finally fell down here. I've always been thinking, like, I'm going to fall down there at some point. It wasn't so bad. I'm going to go down there and see if I can get some of those resources. So so they're making their way along, step by step, and encountering things. But then the other thing is that there's just a limited resource, which is the chapter. Like a chapter is this very defined thing. It's like it has a certain number of Space Marines in it, like 100,000 or something, and it's got a certain number of meltaguns, and it's got a certain number of salty orange, sure, a certain number of dreadnoughts. I love dreadnoughts. Who doesn't love dreadnoughts? Everybody loves dreadnoughts. A certain number of dreadnoughts and a certain number of flying cars and a certain number of, well, you get the idea, right? Like it's limited, and so every session the players would be playing like the highest of the higher ups, right? They'd be playing like the captain, whatever, the commissar, the big wigs. Maybe not like the tip top leader, but like at some point the tip top leader would need to like die and pass on the torch to one of these little one of the players, and so they'd be making the resource decisions that take place before the combat, right? They'd essentially be building the armies. I just thought of that now. It's actually what the player does before they go to play a game of 40K is they build their army, right? They'd be building their armies knowing that if a guy with a meltagun goes down, that's it. You have one less meltagun, unless you're able to recover the corpse during the combat. you just have one less meltagun now for your chapter, and like you can't refuel anywhere, right? So like dreadnoughts and stuff, you'd need to like, and so there's a punishment for losing a fight. Like if you go against some Xenos and there's like filthy, dirty Xenos, and there's there's a problem, there's casualties. You can try again, right? You got 10,000 Marines or 100,000 Marines or whatever it is, so you can try again. But like you can't try again forever because you're gonna run out of guys, and that's another setting that has that property. Yeah. I was thinking of like a mini wall to wall off this area. Yeah. So then, yeah, I guess Jupiter. I have this idea for a setting, and it's like it's a general sort of science fiction idea that could be used for anything, right? But like what I do is role playing games, so I'm always thinking about things in terms of role playing games, and it's a setting in which something has happened. so it's like early, and get ready for some lore. It's early days of the space age. I mean we're basically early days of the space age right now, but this is like somehow through crazy luck we managed to survive the climate disasters at the end of the century or whatever, and we managed to get through the brunt of that. Like nations changed, like the world shook and was torn asunder and reforged, and then it became really clear that we needed to GTFO into space, right? And I'm like, it became really clear. I'm to be clear and transparent about this. I think that's dumb. Like that for me, that's parody. That the solution can't be go find another planet, because there just aren't any. sorry sci-fi kids, there's no space, there's nothing out there. But the corporations and the planet, the governments of the planet want to do something. They want to get out there. I'll put more drying racks up here, I think, temporarily. I should actually start working on this space as well. And so the governments of Earth are basically scrambling to split up the heavens, right? Like to divide space, because the matter of ownership was like never settled. Who owns space, right? And the treaties and stuff that we have already that were invented in the 70s are not great. Like the moon treaty is a little better, but like the idea is they're just very like wishy-washy and kind of airy-fairy. What's another way I can say that? Spacey-wacy. They're basically like, space should be used for the betterment of all humanity, and like nobody owns space and blah blah blah. And like that obviously can't stand in a future where the corporate interests need to start like doing space stuff. So all of the countries of the world are kind of trying to figure that out, but then at the same time, it's clear from those early treaties that science is okay. If you want to go up into space and do some science, that's fine. I'm not actually sure what I'm going to do next here. I think this building is okay now. Maybe I'll work on the storage. If you want to go up into space and do science, that's cool. Like everybody's okay with that. And so all of the countries of the world who are able to get up into space, which is not all of them, are like sort of bullshitting their way into space. They're all doing these sort of government-sponsored, corporate, conglomerate, coordinated science missions. Like, you can't see me doing scare quotes right now, but I'm fiercely scare quoting that. These are like a way to get nationals into space, right? So that you can claim a part of space, and it's super clear. To anybody paying attention, right? Like everybody knows it, but then nobody talks about it. Everyone knows it except everyone else, right? That's one of those things. So the skies are full of these sort of ostentatiously anyway, scientific research missions that are like actually not scientific research missions at all. Or they are, but like they have this ulterior motive of establishing a foothold somewhere, so that when it comes time to decide who owns Jupiter, it'll be, like, China or whatever, America, whatever. I haven't decided what states still exist. Usually it's not America that it still exists, right? That's part of like the zeitgeist. Is nobody believes America's gonna be around in 100 years. Yeah, I think this is a good size for a shelf. Yeah, so they're all out there doing science, like prospecting, and really like science where it's like, we need to extract core samples from this iron-rich asteroid in order to do science on them, and like we have these experts that we've paid to say that like this science is going to be for the good of humanity, but like the reality is that they're just literally mining an asteroid, and the plan is that as soon as it becomes legal for them to bring all that iron home, and like use it to like do whatever, build more spaceships or whatever, they're going to do that, right? Like it's not for the betterment of all of humanity at all. I can't actually put torches in between these things because they're going to have supports that go up, and then I think actually it's kind of awkward. I think I'm only going to be able to have like one. Yeah, this room is not really tall enough for this. If I have a shelf, because like normally what I do is I have a full block down here for putting storage, and then I have the shelf. The first shelf is like up here, and then the box would be up here, but then it's flush with the ceiling, so it wouldn't be able to open unless I like half block all of those, which is possible. Chisel. Can't open that, but then if I chisel this, I think you can open it. Yeah. Let's think about that. Think about doing that. Oh, this is a staircase. Oh, okay. Well, but that's easily solved. I just move this over here. That's fine. Right? So then the space is like full of nationals, full of corporations, full of like international, like Mars is like the site of an international, it's the site of like many reality TV style colony experiments, like Biodome style, like, can 13 Americans survive on Mars? Find out next week on America's top Mars colonists or whatever. And then also there's like a legitimate international space colony experiment that's like on somewhere on Mars as well, right? And they're competing, and and then it's got to the point in this setting where space is crowded with this stuff. Like not crowded, but like it's everywhere, and people don't. Yeah, I'll get to this in a bit. So that's like the state of affairs. Also, it's a game where there's mechs. It's a game where like it's a setting where the fiction of mechs is reality, right? So like the idea is if you want to do something, if you want to get anything done, the way to do it is with mechs. Mechs are like better if they're the fastest, they're the strongest, whatever it is that you need done, that you need doing. It's mechs that you gotta do it with mechs. Do it with mechs, baby. And so there's mech pilots, up in space doing all this work, right? And of course there's no militaries. There's like laws about weapons, so you're not allowed to have weapons up there. But then everybody kind of gets around that by like, scaling down like the type of weapon, or there's certain rules about like, well, like a vibrating knife is okay, and but not laser guns, but maybe traditional weapons, because they, the range is so small that they wouldn't be able to like blah blah blah, or whatever, those kinds of rules, exist, so that you don't have, the nations do not have like fleets yet, but every nation is massing arms that they will be able to use in fleets, when the time comes, right? So like, it's one of those things. It's like, the what people are doing and what people are saying that they're doing is different, and then, right? So like that's I've set the stage for you there. You can sort of imagine that world, the politics of that world. But then, and that's like not too different from, it's like early days version of, what's that wonderful space show that we all love with the Rocinante in it, yeah, but so then what happens is sort of event 0 of the campaign setting is, Earth disappears. Not magically. Like all communication between, if you think about like how spaceships and space stations have to communicate with each other, they can't just like, you can't see each other in space. Space is very big, right? And you might be like, one space station might be like behind a moon or something for a while, and so you can't send them a message. So you have to kind of bounce messages around, and like a practical or a reasonable way of doing that is to send all messages the 45 minutes back to Earth, via a bunch of satellites, a deep space communication network, a deep space network, the DSN, and then have Earth route the traffic. This is also better for security, right? Because it means that you can't have as much plotting and secrecy, right? Like it puts a bit of a hamper on that, because all of this information has to go through a variety of checks and processing that takes place on Earth. And one day, people don't know exactly when, because it was kind of hard to detect what was. It's a weird event. One day, all of those messages coming back from Earth, anything that went through the DSN, became AI generated bullshit. Very probable responses, very likely, very predictable, very expected responses. But anyone in space trying to talk to Earth would get a reply back from a deep fake of the person that they expected to be able to contact. So like if you were sending a message to your wife on Earth being like, how are the kids? Or if you were sending a message to the head of your corporation asking like, well, what do we need to do? The answers that came back would all be very reasonable answers, and like you wouldn't suspect. you wouldn't be like, wait a minute, that was an AI. So people don't know exactly when this happened, but at some point the DSN became untrustworthy. It became a deep fake, of itself. And so all communication between entities in space that isn't being sent directly, right? And all communication that goes through the deep space network is fake, and nobody knows what's happening on Earth, right? Like if you're in Jupiter, it takes place, the setting that I'm imagining takes place around the moons of Jupiter, because there's just so many moons, it's a lot of fun. If you're out there, you can't see Earth. You can't see what's happening on Earth. And you're like, sorry, Earth, seems like something's going on. What's happening, Earth? And then Earth is like, nope, nothing going on here. We've had some earthquakes recently. Maybe that's what you're talking about. There's been some solar flare activity, and that would be like true. That'd be true that there had been some solar flare activity. Maybe that's causing some problems, and you'd be like, oh, okay, all right, Earth, it's fine as long as you're okay, I'm okay, kind of thing, right? This corner is kind of ugly. I'm gonna just like avoid the corners like I've done over here, because that's kind of ugly. I'm gonna do like a little one block shelf over here. Right? And then you're on your own. And like the supplies, part of the mission statement for this kind of setting is it's like a post-apocalypse. Right? The world is over. We didn't get into space fast enough, and something happened, and we're done. And this is the denouement. The story is ending. Humanity is dying. we're in space, and we don't have a planet anymore. Planet Earth is gone. It's like the scraps of the solar system, and the tail end of everything, right? Maybe I'll put these over here. Maybe I'll put these in the corners. I don't know. I don't know what to do with these, actually. It's kind of ugly. Oh, you know what I am going to do with them, though, is I'm going to like cover them up with little these little guys. Trapdoors. Spruce trapdoors are great. This is something that I admire, is when people use spruce trapdoors to do things right. Very nice. So, yeah. So you're in orbit around Ganymede, for example, because you're like a mining colony, and you're starting to figure out, the beginning of the campaign, right? You're starting to figure out something's wrong. Like, Earth's not available, right? What do we do? And like the leader of your operation is like, well, we just wait for them to come back online, because he's just a corporate, he's just a corpo, he's paid by the corporations, he's not paid to make his own decisions. He's like, well, we just gotta wait for orders, like, and then the security teams, they've got the monopoly on force, and we know what a monopoly on force is, right? So then you gotta like, okay, well, so what do they want to do? what do the security guys want to do? And what are the other miners doing, right? Because then you get into game theory, right? You get into first movers advantage. If something really has happened on Earth and we're all alone out here, we don't have supplies to last us forever, right? There's like supplies coming from Earth. There'll be like a backlog of supplies coming from Earth, because Earth just catapults out supplies, same way that you catapult out a Juno probe, on like a really low fuel, long round trip around various stars, and then an expensive deceleration as you get towards your destination, right? But in order to minimize the fuel cost of transporting stuff out there, but as a result, it's like they send one out every 3 months, so there's like this long parade. Every 3 months, there's going to be a cargo ship coming in until they stop. And maybe it's like 10 years before they stop, right? So you've got food coming in, and stuff, but it's like time to start planning, time to start thinking about the future a little bit, I don't like that. And time to start thinking about first movers advantage, like whether if you know what's going on, then chances are everybody knows what's going on. And like, if they decide to shoot your space station, right, or to like blast your space station with an EMP, take out the life support system, and then just wait for you to like, expire, and go and take your stuff. Like, are they planning to do that now? Are they already planning to do that? You can't see them. You can't easily communicate with them. You can send them a message, and you can work this out. Like, it's not the dark forest of Three Body Problem, where you can't even talk to these people, so you just have to imagine that they have the worst intentions. But it's pretty bad, right? Diplomacy in space when there's no central government or anything. It's anarchy. So this is something that is a big part of the setting, is like having to negotiate with the nearby peeps. And then I really like I think that it has a lot of the properties that I want, because it sort of has like, you play as an agenda, right? Like, you play as the particular space station that you're on. You don't have the system that I'm going to use for this is a wargaming system, kind of like I'll use I'll get into that another time. Mobile Frame Zero, look it up. It's got Lego. I'm gonna use Mobile Frame Zero, and you won't have a build. Like, your character won't. It'll be like an old school style thing where you just play as a pilot, and then if you get better at being a pilot, you become two pilots, right? You become like the equivalent of two pilots, or you have an extra system or something that you can use. And it's got. I think it has. It's meant to feel like medieval Europe. It's meant to feel like a bunch of towns and rolling hills, and like you can't see over the rolling hills, you know. It's sort of meant to feel like medieval Europe in space. And there's a small number of NPCs, and they have resources that you might need, right? So like one of them might have a foundry for making, you know, or repairing your mobile frames, and one of them might have some food, some you know, or like you may get a rumor coming in that like there's a stash. Somebody has like a stash. Oh, this has to be chiseled. Things like that, right? And yeah, I go into detail on how I feel like it meets the various properties another time. But yeah, I've just been like sitting down with a doc and trying to write down what are all the possible things in this sort of scenario. For the people who know what's going on, what are all the possible things that they could like want to do, right? Like some scientific research people who are actually up there legitimately doing, you know, SETI or something. Maybe they don't care. Maybe they're like, well, all right, I'm just gonna, you know, I always knew the world was gonna end. I'm just gonna keep doing my science. And then maybe some like crazy folks will be like, oh my gosh, like we've got to finish the colony barge, and we've got to go around and get 500 to 1,000 volunteers to like enter cryostasis and like head out into the stars to save the race. You know, we got to make sure that we you know, because we're the last humans. But there's no governments, right? So it's like, how do you organize people in order to actually want to give up a relatively cozy life in space that, you know, that will end in exchange for like the prospects of potentially a very sad life in space that will also end, you know. Yeah, that's the idea for the setting that I have anyway. That's as much detail as I'm going to go into right now. This I don't know. I don't think I like this. I don't think this looks great. I think it's too crowded, and these poles are not the right color, and the room's not quite tall enough to like. I still have to end up with boxes on the ground. I kind of thought I wouldn't. And then also these colors. Yeah, I don't know. It's not good. It's not good. I'm probably gonna have to redo this at some point. But you know, for now, whatevs. I'm just gonna put some boxes down. And then I think I'm done this episode. Yeah, Jupiter. Yeah, I don't know what else I can say about that. Oh yeah, right. There was one more thing, which is like playing remotely sucks. I maybe mentioned this. Playing remotely kind of sucks. But one day I was like, well, wait, what if playing remotely didn't suck, right? If it didn't suck, then it'd be cool. You'd play remotely. And so I tried to sort of think like, well, so like, why does it suck? And like, how could I make it not suck? And one of the ideas I had was it kind of sucks because, you know, you kind of can't hear people talking, and like you talk over each other, and people get distracted and lose focus, and, you know, things like this, right? And so I thought, well, what if the players were playing characters who were themselves remote? You know, like what if the characters were all remote? Then all of that would just be role playing. Like you would have players who were distracted, and their characters, that's the kind of character that they'd be role playing, is a character who was distracted. And then, you know, if they didn't want to do that, they'd have to like correct their behavior. And one, you know, kind of setting where everyone is remote is a mech game. Oh right, I put my hoe over here because I'm smart. Smart. I'm so smart. Right? So like everybody's in mechs and they're communicating with each other. Like you could do this with Lancer, or you could do it with a custom system or whatever. Put that over there. But I thought that would be cool. And then you could do both. You could do you could do some sessions in person, and you could do some why am I crushing seeds? That doesn't make sense. Some sessions in person and some sessions remotely, and you know, then it would be okay. And then I think that it kind of also has the property that, like, because all of the missions would be kind of short range, you'd be like going out to do something and then coming back. You could run it a little bit like a hex crawl, a space hex crawl, where you know, you don't. I'm gonna end my game inside. Actually, it's cool. I got a house now. I need sand so I can make windows so I can not get shot by skeletons while I'm sleeping. Nice big bay window that it doesn't really overlook anything though. That's too bad. I don't know. Maybe I should move the bay window onto this side. That would have been smart. Yeah. Yeah.